The Los Angeles Lakers returned home on Friday night and took care of business against the Indiana Pacers, walking away with a convincing 128-117 victory to improve their season record to 38 wins and 25 losses. It was not a perfect situation heading into the game, however, as the Lakers were playing the second night of a back-to-back and entered the contest without several key players. LeBron James, DeAndre Ayton, and Maxi Kleber were all sidelined due to various ailments, which meant the rest of the roster had to step up and carry the load. And that is exactly what they did. Leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any updates. The story of the night, as it so often is, belonged to Luka Doncic. The Slovenian superstar was absolutely unstoppable from the opening tip, igniting the Crypto.com arena crowd with a dominant first quarter display that saw him pour in 22 points before the first period was even over. He never really let up from there, finishing the night with 44 total points on 14 of 25 shooting from the field, complemented by 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks. It was the kind of complete statistical performance that reminded everyone in the building and watching from home why Doncic is considered one of the most dangerous offensive players in the modern era of the NBA. Perhaps the most remarkable part of his night was that he accomplished all of this in just 3 quarters of action. With the game well in hand by the time the fourth period rolled around, head coach JJ Redick made the smart decision to rest his franchise player entirely, giving Doncic a chance to preserve his body during what remains a grind of a late season stretch. 44 points in 3 quarters is a staggering number by any measure, and it speaks volumes about the kind of efficiency and pace Doncic was operating at throughout his time on the floor. The numbers paint an even more impressive historical picture when examined closely. Doncic has now scored at least 20 points in the first quarter alone 5 separate times this season, a feat that no other player has accomplished in a single campaign since the NBA began tracking play-by-play data back in the 1996-97 season. That puts him in truly rarefied air, standing alone at the top of a list that spans nearly 3 decades of professional basketball. There is more. According to league tracking data, Doncic is the only player this season to record a single half featuring at least 29 points, 6 made three-pointers, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists all in one half. More remarkably, he has done it 4 times this season, making him the only player to achieve that combination multiple times across the last 30 seasons. When Doncic gets locked in offensively, opposing defenses have very few answers. The Pacers, who are currently in full rebuilding mode following the devastating torn Achilles suffered by Tyrese Halliburton during last season's NBA Finals, had no answers whatsoever on this particular Friday night. Doncic was not without support from his teammates though. Guard Austin Reeves picked up the slack in the second half, finishing with 19 points, 2 rebounds, and 5 assists before fouling out late in the game. Only the second time in his career he has been disqualified that way. Given that the outcome was never in serious doubt at that stage, his early exit had no meaningful impact on the final result. Luke Kennard was another bright spot off the bench, producing a well-rounded line of 15 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists while converting 6 of his 9 field goal attempts. Rui Hachimura added 13 points, and Marcus Smart contributed 11 points on what happened to be his 32nd birthday, making it a memorable evening for the veteran guard on a personal level. The victory continued a pattern the Lakers have shown throughout this season. Against elite competition, they have sometimes struggled to consistently execute at the highest level, but when the matchup is against a weaker opponent, the Lakers have been reliable. Indiana, without their best player and clearly prioritizing the future, was never going to be a serious threat on this night. The Lakers recognized that and handled the situation professionally. Looking ahead, the schedule does not get any easier. Los Angeles is set to host the New York Knicks in a Sunday afternoon matchup that figures to attract significant national attention, followed by a Tuesday night game against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Both opponents present genuine challenges, and the Lakers will need contributions from across their entire roster if they hope to come away with victories in those back-to-back tests. Coach JJ Redick has been navigating a tricky stretch of the calendar, managing his rotation carefully to keep his veterans fresh, while also developing the depth pieces around his stars. The absence of LeBron James on Friday was notable, but ultimately did not derail the team's effort, a sign of the roster's growing confidence. Players like Kennard and Smart have settled into reliable supporting roles, and when Reeves is connecting and finding teammates in transition, the Lakers' offense flows smoothly. Doncic continues to set the tone every time he steps on the floor. His blend of playmaking, scoring from multiple levels, and physical toughness, evident in his 3 steals and 2 blocked shots against Indiana, makes him the most complete offensive force in the Western Conference. As the regular season winds down and the playoff race intensifies, performances like Friday nights are exactly what the Lakers need to build momentum heading into the postseason. LeBron James has been playing professional basketball for more than 2 decades, and as his 23rd NBA season continues to unfold, the question surrounding his eventual retirement has begun to take on a more serious tone. James sat out the Los Angeles Lakers' Friday night victory over the Indiana Pacers due to a left elbow contusion, and his absence once again sparked discussion about just how much time remains in one of the greatest careers the sport has ever seen. In a candid and thoughtful interview with reporter Melissa Rowland of the California Post, James offered a rare and deeply personal glimpse into how he imagines the end of his playing days. Rather than framing his retirement as a somber moment, he reached for a metaphor that reflects both loss and gratitude, comparing his eventual departure from the game to the experience of attending a funeral that doubles as a celebration of life. James explained that when someone loses a loved one and gathers to honor them, there is grief in the room, but there is also joy, storytelling, and appreciation for everything that person brought to the world. That is the kind of emotional atmosphere he envisions surrounding the end of his basketball journey. He wants people to reflect not on what is being lost, but on everything he gave to the game over a career that has spanned multiple generations of NBA fans. The 40-year-old forward made clear that he wants the focus, whenever that final chapter arrives, to be on celebration rather than sadness. He has spoken openly at various points this season about being in the twilight of his playing days, and those comments have fueled speculation that the upcoming offseason could be a pivotal moment of decision. James will enter free agency as an unrestricted player after this season concludes, leaving open the question of whether he will return for a 24th campaign, and if so, whether that return will be in a Lakers uniform. Despite the retirement conversation swirling around him, James remains remarkably productive on the court. This season he is averaging 21.4 points, 7.0 assists, and 5.6 rebounds per game, while shooting 50.4% from the field. Those numbers would be impressive for a player in his prime years, making them even more extraordinary for someone at age 40 competing against athletes often half his age. James has also added significant historical milestones to his already overstuffed resume in recent weeks. He surpassed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to become the NBA's all-time leader in made field goals, a record that had stood for decades and was considered by many to be untouchable. James has now made it his own. Additionally, he has passed Kobe Bryant in Los Angeles Lakers franchise history for the most 30-point double-doubles, and he joined the late Bryant as one of only 2 players in Lakers history to drain at least 1,000 career three-pointers. These are not minor footnotes. They are lasting markers of excellence that will remain part of the historical record long after James takes his final bow. Beyond the individual milestones, James is also quietly closing in on another all-time record. He currently sits just 6 games away from surpassing Hall of Famer Robert Parrish, who played 1,611 career games, for the outright all-time mark in NBA regular season appearances. If he reaches that number and then returns for a 24th season, James would continue rewriting the record books well into his 40s. What is clear from his recent comments is that James is not simply playing out the clock. He is thinking carefully about the legacy he will leave behind, the emotions that will accompany his exit, and the way he wants the basketball world to remember what he built over a career that began in Akron, Ohio, and has stretched across 4 NBA franchises and 4 championship rings. The Lakers and their fan base will be watching closely to see how this final chapter unfolds, and whether James decides to write one more season into his extraordinary story. For the Lakers organization, the uncertainty surrounding LeBron's future is both a challenge and a privilege. Head coach JJ Redick has spoken about the importance of maximizing what James brings to the team on a nightly basis, understanding that every game could be one fewer in a career that has produced memories generations of fans will carry with them. From his record-setting scoring exploits to his ability to control a game with his passing and basketball IQ, James has been the heartbeat of the Lakers since arriving in Los Angeles. The left elbow contusion that kept him out against Indiana is being monitored carefully by the medical staff, but there is no indication it represents a serious long-term concern. The focus remains on managing his workload wisely as the regular season heads into its final stretch, with the playoffs looming as the most important window of the year. When James does eventually walk away, he will do so as the NBA's all-time leading scorer, the all-time leader in made field goals, a 4-time champion, and a 4-time Finals MVP. More than the numbers, he has spoken about wanting people to feel something when they look back. joy, inspiration, and the sense that they witnessed something genuinely special. That, above all else, appears to be the legacy LeBron James is most focused on leaving behind. Los Angeles Lakers forward LeBron James has long been one of the most vocal supporters of the next generation of NBA talent, and on Saturday he made that clear once again. James took to social media to publicly welcome Boston Celtics star Jason Tatum back to the floor following a return from a torn Achilles tendon, an injury that had kept the Celtics forward away from NBA action for nearly a full year. The message James sent was brief but enthusiastic, expressing genuine excitement and support for Tatum's comeback. It was a notable moment of cross-conference respect between two of the league's most prominent players, and it was received warmly by fans on both sides of one of basketball's most storied rivalries. The relationship between James and Tatum is one that has developed over time and carries real weight. The two grew particularly close during the 2024 Paris Olympics, where both represented Team USA and spent extended time together competing on the international stage. That shared experience created a bond that has been evident in the public expressions of mutual admiration they have shown toward each other since. Before Paris, their connection was more defined by competition. James faced Tatum in several high-stakes playoff series dating back to the Cleveland Cavaliers days. But through those battles, a genuine respect took root. Tatum's return came in a Celtics victory over the Dallas Mavericks, marking his first game action since suffering the Achilles tear during last season's playoffs against the New York Knicks. Achilles injuries are notoriously difficult to recover from, requiring intensive rehabilitation over a period that typically spans a full 12 months or more. Tatum, however, attacked his recovery with the same focus and discipline that Kobe Bryant famously demonstrated after his own Achilles injury years ago, and he managed to return in approximately 10 months, a remarkably fast timeline for such a serious setback. The early stages of his comeback showed exactly what those months of rehabilitation looked like from the outside. Tatum was clearly working his way back into rhythm during the early portions of the game, showing some rust after such a lengthy absence from competitive basketball. But midway through the first half, he threw down an emphatic dunk that seemed to trigger a shift in his mindset, loosening him up and allowing him to settle into the flow of the contest. He ultimately played 27 minutes and finished with 15 points, 12 rebounds, and 7 assists in the win, a stat line that would have been impressive even for a fully healthy player, let alone one coming off a major surgical procedure. The significance of Tatum's return extends well beyond a single game's box score. The Celtics are one of the leading title contenders in the Eastern Conference, and his presence on the roster dramatically changes their ceiling as a playoff team. With the postseason approaching, Boston now has the opportunity to build chemistry and get Tatum back to full sharpness before the games that matter most. For LeBron James and the Lakers, the immediate future does not include a rematch with the Celtics. Los Angeles and Boston have already played both of their regular season meetings this year, meaning the two teams will not share the floor again unless they meet in the NBA Finals. That possibility carries real intrigue, as it would set the stage for one final James versus Tatum showdown, a matchup that has captivated fans for years, and one that would take on even greater narrative weight given the retirement conversation swirling around the Lakers superstar. Tatum himself has demonstrated a deep appreciation for the history of the game and for the players who shaped it. He has publicly stated that Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and Kobe Bryant occupy the top tier of the greatest players to ever compete in the NBA, placing those three in a category he considers already settled in basketball lore. His respect for James is genuine, which makes LeBron's public welcome on the occasion of Tatum's return feel like more than just a social media gesture. It is a recognition that the next great chapter of NBA basketball is now being written, and Tatum is one of its central authors. At 28 years old, Tatum is still very much in the ascending phase of his career, even as he checks into the role of elder statesman for a Celtics team that has its eyes firmly set on another championship run. His combination of scoring ability, versatility on both ends of the floor, and playmaking instincts puts him among the short list of players who can genuinely carry a franchise through the most demanding moments of a playoff run. The fact that he returned from a torn Achilles this quickly and put up 15 points, 12 rebounds, and 7 assists in his first game back speaks to both his physical conditioning and his competitive mentality. For the NBA as a whole, Tatum's return is a boost. The league is always better when its best players are healthy and competing. James, who has watched multiple fellow stars battle back from serious injuries throughout his career, clearly understands that. His willingness to publicly celebrate a rival's return, rather than quietly hope a competitor stays on the sideline, says something meaningful about the kind of leader he has been throughout his career, and the example he continues to set for those who will carry the game forward once his own playing days are done. The moment captured, in a small but genuine way, the spirit of a league built on competition, respect, and the shared love of basketball at its highest level.